Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. I am Violette Ayala, the founder and CEO of FemCity, and you're joining us today for a great conversation on how to move from business trauma, how to move from business trauma. The reason why we're covering this is because the theme of the month is forgiveness. And we've talked a lot about forgiving ourselves for situations, scenarios that we've been through, but there's also the aspect of business trauma. And so business trauma is generally something that we've gone through that has really hurt us emotionally or energetically, and we feel like we can't move forward from. So it could be that you took out a high interest loan. It could be that you hired the wrong people. It could be that you invested money hiring a coach that turned out to be a fraud. Like it could be all sorts of different scenarios. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Our collective intention is to help you move forward from that business trauma. So kind of releasing that, surrendering, forgiving yourself, and then using that as a platform to move yourself ahead so you can go back into that space of greatness where you thrive and flourish. So I've asked these beautiful femmes from our global program to join me today in the conversation. I know each of them so well. I'm so excited that they're here with us. We've got Christi Norfleet over in Roanoke. We have Judith Richey. I was going to do the alphabetical order. Judith Richey, who is in Texas. And then we have Julia May Hunt, who's over in Des Moines. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us. Really quick, just before we get started, in case people don't know you, Christi, share a little bit about who you are.
So I'm the owner and founder of Confluence Business Solutions, and I help women entrepreneurs with sales and marketing automation.
Perfect. And Judith, share a little bit about yourself.
I'm Judith Richey. I'm a force for transformation. I'm a spiritual and transformational healer, and I primarily work with women entrepreneurs who've hit a wall in their business and help them figure out what's going on at the soul level that needs to be healed, that has an opportunity to be healed to move them forward.
Love that. And then Julia May might look familiar because she actually covered this topic for us 2 years ago. It was I still remember it. So I'm so glad she signed up to be a part of this again today. Julia, share a little bit about yourself.
I'm Julia with Julia May Photography, and I'm a social media photographer and manager. That's a new thing I've added on. And I primarily help women who are serving other women in some way. So all my businesses serve other women, my businesses that are clients.
Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. And for those that are watching live, feel free to ask questions. We're here for you. If you're watching the replay, which I know so many of you do, you can always join the conversation. You can always just add comments, reach out to any of us. We want to make sure that you have everything you need to flourish and grow. So the first question is, what's your number one tip on moving past business trauma so we can start growing again? And again, it's going back into like forgiving ourselves for decisions that we've made with our business, or maybe getting off track. It could be that we realigned in another way and we've kind of fallen off. What is your number one advice, Christi?
So what comes to my mind is really about understanding that like trauma changes us as individuals. And so my number one piece of advice really is about giving yourself permission to be a different person on the other side of that trauma. So whatever expectations you had for yourself or your business or how you operated in your business are going to be changed. And so if you continue to hold the same level of expectation for yourself, even if some other aspect of who you are or how you operate in your business has changed, you're going to continue to butt up against like a misalignment in your business. So taking time to reflect and understand exactly what did I learn? What have I gotten out of this experience? And how does this make me a different person will help you realign with your goals and your priorities in your business so that you're not constantly being like, well, I didn't do it the way I used to do it, or I can't achieve it. And I'm not suggesting that you're not going to be able to achieve at the same level because you've experienced some kind of trauma, but more so that how you go about doing it may be different, or maybe what you experience in that process, maybe what used to be effortless may become more challenging. Maybe the benchmark is higher because you've cut out all of these different things, and now you have guilt or shame because why am I not experiencing this? So that pendulum could go both directions, really depending on exactly what sort of trauma you've had to go through and work through. So in summary, like you are not the same person on the other side. So giving yourself permission to be that person and understanding exactly what that looks like and what that means.
I love that. So it reminded me of, I was thinking like what was like two drama or traumatic things that happened to me with business. I remember years and years ago, it may not sound traumatic when I say it out loud, but it was because I hardly had any money at the time. But I spent like $6,000 on this like coach to help me like get into PR and like magazines. And I took it, paid for it. And at the end of the day, I felt like a fool. I could not believe I paid someone to share with me what I already knew as a former publicist. I felt so dumb. And so I had to redirect it because I was really punishing myself, like in my mind. I had to redirect it and say, you know what, it actually was good that I did that because it reconfirms the knowledge that I have. And it also elevates the way that I saw my worth when it comes to the knowledge that I have. And also I had someone who stole from me when I started FemCity and, you know, stole a lot of money from me. And again, you punish yourself, you're like kicking yourself, you can't get past that because you feel so stupid. But now I watch my numbers like a hawk. Like, and that's the blessing that happened from that is that now I watch everything like really closely, so that won't happen to me again. So your advice.
It speaks to also that there's these things that you'll forever remember, you know? So, and that's like super important to like appreciate that it's not an everyday occurrence, and you know, it will follow you and affect how you change or make future decisions.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Judith. Judith, what is your number one tip on moving past business trauma?
So, you know, this is my wheelhouse, right? Because it's what I help people do. I help people heal from trauma every day. In fact, I just got off of a session with a business owner who's got some trauma that they're working through. You know, this is not a one tip, one size fits all situation for everybody. So I hope that between all of us, y'all find something to take forward for yourselves, because we're all going to present it a little bit differently. The first thing I want to say to you is that we're solopreneurs. And so we make these decisions on our own. We don't have a board or we don't have someone behind us, you know, a business manager who's helping us make decisions. And when we're operating from a place of lack and fear and scarcity, we make decisions in a different space than we do when we make decisions from flow and ease and abundance. And it's when we're operating from that place of fear and scarcity and lack that we can get into the situations that can contribute to trauma. And we can have those failures and we can have those hard lessons that are learned, right? So when that happens, one of the best gifts that we can give ourselves is grace and forgiveness for going that direction and understanding that it wasn't a failure, it was a lesson, an opportunity for a lesson. And so I just really want to emphasize the awareness is a huge part of this, being aware that, oh, I did this thing, this was the result. I feel this way from it. You know, really getting in touch with what's coming up for you with the emotions, because that all carries energy. And when we hold on to it and we beat ourselves up and we're really just castigating ourselves for the decision that we made, that causes a trickle down effect of other things that happen to us. You know, we have the negative emotions, and then that rolls into, you know, we feel like a fraud, we feel like a failure, we feel like, you know, an imposter. And then we start sabotaging our efforts because we're fulfilling those things that we believe about ourselves. You know, so the main thing is when you make a decision that you find doesn't serve you in the direction you want to go, have grace and forgiveness for yourself and ask yourself, what's the lesson? So that's the breakthrough for you. You know, what's the lesson? And then avail yourself of healing techniques, healing interventions that will clear that energy that has been created so that you can transform through that trauma and go on to achieve the things that you dream of and you so aspire to.
I love that. And you know what? You're so right, Judith. Like when you have that energy and it's people feel that energy and you carry it on, it impacts. So even if you're not consciously self-sabotaging yourself, you can subconsciously, unconsciously start self-sabotaging yourself because you down deep inside don't feel like you're worthy. And it comes through with just your energy, just showing up in that space. And then all of a sudden you start losing more clients, or you start, losing connection with certain things. So yeah, that's fantastic. Let's see, there's a comment that showed up. Let me go ahead and show this from Kim Murphy. Love that, Judith. If our alignment is off, we do make decisions from low energy places. You are so right. Forgiveness here is key. And I think the awareness that you need to dive into that space, because I know people in my family that are angry from things that happened to them, but they've never had that conversation. So they always show up angry. That's the space that they're in all the time, because it takes a lot of energy to like dive deep and go through that. It's like not pretty at all, but you come out giving grace and more love to yourself.
Absolutely. And one of the things that is so vitally important is we don't have to do this alone. We do not have to go through these things by ourselves. That's why I do the work that I do, because I come in and I hold the space for you. I create that safe container, and I also guide you through the process. Because if it was left to our devices, we would just pick up that rug and keep sweeping everything underneath it and not look at it. And then that creates additional problems. And how do you know when you can enter that space of awareness? When you have any of those darker emotions that are showing up, the fear, the scarcity, the anger, the distrust, the self-doubt, the self-loathing, when any of that stuff's showing up, and guess what? It's all based in shame. I'm ashamed that I feel this way, so I don't want to look at it. When any of that's showing up, that's an opportunity for us to give ourselves the space to dig a little deeper and figure out what's going on underneath there. And if we can't get to it ourselves, call me or call somebody who does this kind of work. Yeah,
you're not alone. And also, everyone's been through some sort of, like, I've never met a perfect human who's made every decision in a perfect way and nothing's gone wrong for them. So yeah, okay, so there's more love. Well, let's go to Julia, and then I'm going to share some of the comments. Julia, what is your number one tip for moving past business trauma so we can be our best selves?
I can relate to so many things that we've talked about already. I feel like you listed off several things on my own list of things that I've experienced in my own business. And so my number one tip is to have that support system set up. You have your Judith, you have your trusted business friends that when something happens, you can text or call someone, because especially if it is a very sudden trauma, but it doesn't even matter what kind of trauma you're dealing with, you're going to hear all these words that we're talking about today, but just when you're in that high emotional state, you need someone to talk to. Otherwise, you are going to make all your decisions in those fear-based. And, I actually recently had something happen, and I was in the middle of signing contracts and selling, my new service. And I had to call a lot of people, do a lot of texting to keep myself grounded, in order to figure out what I was going to do now and serve my clients, my new clients that I was onboarding. And was actually able to come up with something better than what I was offering before, because I had that support system. But if I'd been left to myself, oh man, that would have been ugly.
I love that. I love that so much. All right, so Magdalena is sharing. Thanks for sharing the wisdom. I agree. Learn from hard lessons is not failure. I guess my question is more, sometimes we question if those errors or fail represent a sign that's time to move on to a different direction or push through. Solopreneurs is so right. Give yourselves grace. That's a great question. I mean, how do we know? I think for myself, I when one door closes and then a bunch of other doors closes, and then like all of a sudden, I always find it comes in more than one. Like it usually comes in threes for myself, and they're usually like the signs are all like right smacking me in the head. They may have whispered at first, but when I'm ready to hear it, it definitely comes in signs of threes. And it is like that door is closing. So yeah, and I've had those happen to me before as well. A couple businesses in the past that, it's you kind of feel it, and then you ask for that confirmation and it shows up pretty loud. So that's my way of kind of handling that situation. Anybody want to pipe in on that one? Go ahead, Julia.
I always say I give something a chance. So if maybe I'm promoting something and I do one post and I don't get any hits from it, like just for example, then I try other avenues and see if there's any interest out there. And if I really don't get any interest, then I try to deal with my disappointment because it's the best idea ever. And then sometimes I just tweak things and I try it again, maybe a year later, or sometimes I sow seeds that are going to be something else later that was completely unexpected. So then it turns out that actually it wasn't a failure. It's just a way different result than I expected.
Excellent. Thank you, Julia. Go ahead, Judith.
So one of the techniques that I teach all of my clients is called muscle testing. And it's a kinesthetic way to connect with your soul's deepest wisdom. And it is such a fabulous tool to use in all aspects of life, not just in the work that I do in a client session, because you can get a yes or no answer based on the direction your soul is guiding you to take. So when I'm making personal decisions and business decisions, I just had an instance this week where someone pitched something to me. I asked them for some time to go away. I came, I meditated, I muscle tested. It was absolutely not the right decision for me. I knew that already, but I just really wanted to give the process space. So muscle testing is another way to figure out, should I go this way? Should I go this way? Is it this? Is it that? Is it yes? Is it no? And I'd love to, anybody who wants to learn muscle testing, I'd be happy to teach them that.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we're starting to wrap up. Anything else? Christi, do you want to pipe in on anything or?
Yeah, I can do my final thoughts as well. So, when you sent out the announcement for the trainings, this is one of those topics where somebody's going to see it and they're going to immediately reference a situation, a story, an experience. And the timing was kind of perfect. I had just written 2 blogs one was about red flags. And a story of basically not listening to the red flag. So the counter side to that they come in patterns is when our gut or when you don't take Judith's advice and do muscle testing and you don't adhere to your intuition. What are the lessons that can be learned there? And then my other blog that I would encourage people to take a look at is simply about like a catastrophic mistake I made in business and the things that I learned from that. And I think that the inspiration that I really took away from sitting down and writing it was, one, it was cathartic just to write about it, but also like, hey, look at that. I survived and, I made a mistake. I experienced this trauma, in my business. And also I can still hold my head high and continue to be a business owner and learn and move on. And I think whether you, somebody comes into your world and that is the cause of your trauma, or you feel you are responsible, there's something to learn from it, especially if we believe there are no mistakes. So take a look at our blog as well.
Awesome.
So a little vulnerability in there. So yeah,
I love that. Thank you, Christi.
Yep.
Judith, final advice.
Yeah, so going back to the concept of that we're not meant to do this alone, I created a pod of women that I trust with my life and with anything that I have going on. And we meet together about every 2 weeks and we talk about business stuff and we hold each other accountable and we share things and we ask questions of each other because we're all at different levels of expertise in the different things that we're doing. So my advice is, find some people and create that group for yourself and be vulnerable. Be willing to be vulnerable and share these things. You'll just be amazed at how good it is for your soul to have that support and to be able to talk those things through. So that's my advice.
Thank you. Thank you. And Julia May, your final advice?
Actually, I'm just going to add on. And Christi, that sounds like a great couple of blogs to read. And Judith, I also have a group that I meet with. We meet once a week, either in person or on Zoom, or sometimes it's just a text chain. Plus just other friends that I am regular friends with, but also have available for, when those times happen. But the final piece of advice is also make sure you've got your support staff in place when you can, when you're ready for it in your business, and you can do it as soon as you can, so that if you do need a break, you've got someone that can check emails, that can kind of take over doing some of the things for you while you process.
Yeah. Love that. All right. So more love came through. I love this. Thank you all so much. So thank you. Thank you. All right. Christi, how can Femmes find you to learn more about the work you're doing in this world? Nope. Hold on a second. Let me fix that audio.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook, Christi Stafford Norfleet, or Confluence Business Solutions. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. And Judith, how can Femmes find you to learn more about the work you're doing in this world?
The best place to find me and follow me is on Instagram, Judith Richey, Force for Transformation.
Awesome. And Julia May.
Best place to find me is also on Instagram, and it's just at Julia May Hunt.
Awesome. And I follow all three of you, and I highly recommend your Instagram's handles or your accounts. So thank you so much for joining me on this. This was so great. It was actually quite healing for me as well. So it's just really just perfect. I think it's the best trio for this conversation. For those that are watching the replay, again, feel free to reach out to any of us here. We want your success. And for those that joined us live, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back here next week. Mwah! Bye.